This is Super Black. I am Carl. That is Dan.
Hello, guys.
And in this episode, we are chatting about Ghost Rider.
Doing the research for this character, I know we're only really going to focus on Robbie Reyes, but doing the background research on this character, you understand that, he's referred to as the spirit of vengeance, but he's actually, a demon called Zarathos, and that's who Johnny Blaze bonded with. He's more of like a horror character. You need to be scared of him, as opposed to be, it was more like this weird, freaky character. I was like, I don't necessarily know how to explain it, but like I wasn't scared when I feel like you need to be scared of that character.
Jumping forward into our actual topic of Mr. Roberto Robbie Reyes, in 2014 they reintroduced Ghost Rider, and then the person who would then take up the mantle, and they made him a Mexican American. Instead of driving a old school motorcycle, some Harley Davidson or anything, he drives a souped up, a Charger.
Yes.
Yeah, a Dodge Charger from like it's like a 1970s Dodge Charger, which is one of the best cars that they've ever made. And when he gets into that car and becomes the Ghost Rider, the car envelops in flames and takes off like a bat out of hell, which I think is an amazing visual to show not only in the comic books, but in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we get to see a nice live action version of Mr. Robbie Reyes. What is your take on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Robbie Reyes?
From jump, the introduction of him was pretty well done. From the design perspective, they got, pretty much spot on. It seems like a more integrated, like, half skull, half helmet. Mm-hmm. Right? But I'm okay with that.
It's very angular.
Yes. Yeah, but most, it's like mostly the look is very faithful to the comic book. You can already tell they took some liberties in terms of the story, because in the comic book, Robbie Reyes is actually in high school, where it seems like this version is a little older, and he's been in that Ghost Rider form for like a while.
Yeah,
he seems to come to terms. Yes, he comes to terms. Yeah, I'm curious to see if they actually delve into the actual backstory of the Ghost Rider, because this is what makes Robbie Reyes so interesting, is that he doesn't have that same spirit of vengeance that Johnny Blaze has. This actually, this was a surprise to me. It was when you started reading that series, it was understood that there was something wrong with that spirit. It wasn't the one that they were used to. And it slowly got revealed that it was a serial killer that just happened to take over Robbie Reyes. And what made it even worse is the serial killer was his uncle that was shot and killed by the police back in the 1990s.
You touched upon it, but each person who takes on the Ghost Rider mantle gets different abilities, different powers, and it's normally associated with a different spirit. So it's not Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider is not necessarily Robbie's, who's not necessarily Danny Ketch's. Like everyone who touches that spirit gets a different entity of sorts. All from hell, though, because it wouldn't be funny if it wasn't. We'll double back to the Ghost Rider, is the Spirit of Vengeance movie, where every car or every vehicle he touched burst into flames and became this really interesting ride. And he drove that big construction vehicle in the movie, and all the flames erupted, and Ghost Rider's in there having a ball, just messing with the gears and stuff. And that alone that's what made that movie for me. So it's nice to see that he's not only on the bike, and in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. they gave him the muscle car, and it's on fire, the wheels spark up. It's a great visual. That's one thing that I know I love about Ghost Rider, is that visual, that silhouette, if you will. Like it's unmistakable. It's beautiful.
Like I'm once again curious to see how far they're going to take it, because the budget with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. budget, there's constraints, so you can't necessarily have him on fire walking around the entire time. And they've found a way to, Bobby Reyes can summon the power of Ghost Rider without necessarily lighting up, which is interesting to me. Like anything he touches starts burning, and he takes on like superhuman strength without even going to the Skull and Flames version.
So far, which version do you like more? I mean, they haven't done a ton of it with a ton with him on Agents of Shield yet. Wow, I am eating every word that I say. But between the character in the comic and the character on screen, which which do you feel is more in line with what you'd want with Ghost Rider, being kind of a horror character or a scarier character?
It's for me, like I don't necessarily want to compare the two because like the reason I got back into that Ghost Rider series is clearly the artist. The artist, Den Elo Beirut.
That is a name.
Yes, and his art style is this very linear, fluid. He does beautiful line work, and it's perfect for the action. Like when the action picks up in the book, his art lends so well to it. So I love the book. The story was great, but because I'm an illustrator, because I'm an artist, I appreciated the book that much more because of that, because of him. The television series itself, so far, when Ghost Rider's on screen, you could tell that they are pushing the visual hard, and they try to make it as cinematic as possible. Like the introduction of Ghost Rider, where he gets blown up, and the car flips into the air, the tires light on fire, and from there on out, it's just 90 miles an hour. And it's like at that point, you're just sitting in the background, like only got to see glimpses of the Ghost Rider. Mm-hmm. Which I feel is good in that respect, because having the story from Ghost Rider's perspective kind of takes away from the horror feel.
Yeah, he needs to be on the outskirts, kind of always showing up, freaking everybody out. And he doesn't need to speak, and when he speaks, it really should come from like every direction, and it should sound like it's coming from hell or something.
Yeah, the room should vibrate. Like the room should turn to speakers when he's speaking.
Nothing but bass and hellfire.
Yes.
So let's talk about Ghost Rider's powers in general. So when whomever who's taken over by the Spirit of Vengeance gets the power of Ghost Rider, of course, obviously their head explodes into flame and you see a nice little skull. Robbie Reyes, however, gets this funky, almost medieval skull helmet where flames and exhaust kind of like pour out of the mouth and the eyes, which is a very dope visual. The Ghost Rider becomes pretty much impervious to any physical or kinetic damage. You can stab him, you can shoot him, and it does nothing. The bullets and the knives pretty much just go through and into hell and burn away. He's basically fire. He's a fire person at that point. And he has this really almost useless but interesting power called the penance stare, where he can stare directly into your soul and make you feel all the pain that you've caused other people in your lifetime.
Oh, wait, how is that useless?
Well, he has to stand there and hold you, and it kind of makes him this stationary. Like if he can make you feel it from a distance, I would understand. And if he can, please let me know. But from what I could tell you, he has to like be up on top of you and make you feel like hold you down. But if you're in a fight, it doesn't really come into play, does it?
I mean, it's like when he backs you into a corner, like he's supposed to be this horror character. You're supposed to be scared of him, this walking force of nature. So I can just imagine people paralyzed in fear, and him just having, slowly walking up and grabbing that face and just sending him to hell. Basking in the pain they've caused their entire. Imagine how that feels, like being psychopath, being the worst of humanity, and having all that you've done wrong just thrown right back at you in mere moments.
That's probably terrifying, but I would run. I'd run really far. I'd run really fast and far.
But it's just like Jason. It's just like Michael Myers. You can run as much as you want, but you're not going to escape him. Like that's his job. His job is to find you and make you pay for what you did.
See, that's a good story. That's a good parallel. Like he should be on level with like Myers and all those horror movie monsters. Like, he should be. Why isn't Ghost Rider more of a horror movie monster? Like, if he was part of the public domain or something and everybody could touch that character, I bet people would write some really great horror stories based on Ghost Rider, because there's never a monster who's doing good. It's always a monster who's going after some kids or his sister or something weird like that. But what about a monster that you're terrified of, but you kind of want him to win? Like, I'm not smart enough to write that story, but I'm sure somebody else is.
And technically, Ghost Rider really isn't a good guy. From what I understand, it's like if you have a cross to bear in any way, shape, or form, he will come after you. You just have to stay out of his way. He just kind of goes after the biggest and the bad. But if you get in his way, he will still mess with you.
He also has a freaky chain that he can pull out of nowhere. That's mostly Johnny Blaze. I don't think the later incarnations had that weird chain, did they?
No, they all use it to a certain extent. He has a chain. He has the with the knives at the end of it. And he definitely uses it. The car definitely is used more as a weapon in this iteration.
Yeah.
And and not only that, the trunk is a portal. So if he needs to get somebody out of harm's way, he just takes that person, throw them in the trunk, and they just end up. Perfect example in the comic book series. Spoilers. When Robbie Reyes is trying to save his brother from a gang, he picks his brother up, puts him in the trunk, and he ends up back at the garage where Robbie Reyes originally found the car. It's like the TARDIS, kind of, sort of.
I like your nerd reference. It is very much like the TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside.
Yes. And here's where it kind of gets very complicated, because the spirit of vengeance in Robbie isn't the typical one. This one tends to be more manipulative. So it's a constant battle between Ghost Rider. Well, it's a constant battle between Robbie Reyes and his uncle for dominance over the body. And when Robbie Reyes completely loses control in terms of like when he gets angry, and gives into his negative emotions, Eli, the uncle, can completely just take over the body and do whatever the hell he wants to.
That sucks.
Like, yeah, but that makes for a better character.
Yeah, more nuanced.
Exactly.
Here's a question for you. Have you watched the Spawn animated series?
Yes, I have.
Do you think that Ghost Rider would fit in that type of animation style or that animation storytelling?
Absolutely.
I think those two are kind of not. I was going to say synonymous, but that's not the right word. They're a very good parallel. Like, I feel like that type of gritty, dirty, just horror story would fit Ghost Rider really well. Like, he needs to stalk prey. He can't be in the forefront all the time. When he shows up, it has to be an event, like you have to hear like that engine roar from miles away. You have to see the fire coming from along, like just freak people out. Like that visual of a flaming car driving at you is powerful. And I think the Robbie Reyes character would do well to have that, sort of vehicle. Pun intended. In today's creative studio, we are going to take a cue from our topic hero, a Mr. Ghost Rider, and we're going to create our very own super black Ghost Rider. This should be a nice little fun exercise. I was thinking about this a little bit, and I like the idea of a Japanese Ghost Rider. Only because you can pull from all those old like Japanese demon pictures and pick one and try and make it into kind of the spirit of vengeance. And I'm kind of obsessed with samurai culture. Not obsessed, but I think it's really cool. What say you? You think that's a good place to start, or you have another?
If we're following the horror genre, that'd be perfect. Especially within the last 20 years, with all the Asian horror, The Grudge, and all those things, I think that'd be absolutely amazing.
Do you think we actually set it in samurai times, or is contemporary more terrifying? I like the fact that you can put it in like actual samurai times, where it's just dark. There's no like electricity or cell phones or anything. Everything's just kind of like out in the forest somewhere, maybe. and this rogue, maybe he's a Ronin samurai, who's been cursed by some ancient Japanese demon, and he's like a Ronin with no master, and he roams from village to village, taking down other evil samurais.
As you're speaking, I'm putting together an image in my head of what he would look like, and I would like to actually put that together and see what I can do with that.
I urge you to. Let's keep going, because I think we can get a little bit more clarity for you. In my head, I'm thinking he's been cursed, but the reason he's a Ronin is because he killed his former employer. I don't know what the term for those, like master, like his former employer. Let's say employer. He killed his former employer, and he got driven out of town because everyone loved him. They didn't know he was evil, and this demon, this spirit of vengeance that he's engulfed with, took over and murdered this guy and burned down his temple. So now he's kind of on the run, but he's also there's like vague references to like the way that Hulk show was, where he's just kind of wandering, and he stops in different towns and does good deeds, and then he has to keep going because everyone, he left a trail of fire in his way.
But here's the thing: it's like I can't imagine him wandering. He would have to be on a horse the entire time, because you really couldn't call him Ghost Rider if he wasn't riding in something, right? Or riding on something.
Yeah. Sure. Yes. Would it be cooler if it was more of like a cart? Like two horses and a cart?
Or so can he be running with a rickshaw?
Like
he's holding the rickshaw, yeah.
And who's in it?
It's like his victims. The victims' souls are binded to the rickshaw.
And he's dragging it behind him?
Ronin pulling around a rickshaw. Maybe it was originally his dead family in that rickshaw, and their souls were originally binded to that. And now he's...
The only thing about the rickshaw is that it requires him to... His hands become taken out of the equation, because he has to hold the rickshaw. So like on a horse, he's able to like pull a sword, or in a cart he can let go of the reins and do something. But on a rickshaw, it's almost like he's required to have somebody in there.
Let me set a tone for you, and let's see how well this sticks. All right. So imagine through the back forests of feudal Japan, where there's it's only lit by the moon. You see this character slowly dragging a rickshaw around with a flaming skull, and no matter what you do, you can't seem to get far enough away from it. And once again, this feudal Japan, nobody's really going anywhere pretty quickly. So he can let go of that rickshaw and just cause as much havoc as possible. That katana can come out, and he's just slicing and dicing, taking those bodies and throwing them on the rickshaw, and that's where he performs the penance. Yep.
Okay, I'm back in. It's kind of terrifying. I like the idea of him roaming through the forest, and at night you just see like this moving fire kind of thing. Like it's just this slow moving like torch, and you can't really understand, like, is the forest on fire, but why is it moving, and why is no trees on fire or anything? I want to infuse, just take it a step further. Instead of holding the souls in there, let's say if he gets somebody in there, he performs the penance, and then they're gone, right? And as he walks with holding the rickshaw, and the wheels, kind of burn the floor, as they go, you hear the screams and the wails of the people that he's performed penance on, just kind of bubbling up from the scorch marks in the floor behind him. So you hear the souls crying out as he walks through the forest.
Let me add to this. How about, on top of what you just said, the most recent person he performed penance on is still trapped on the top of that rickshaw and just slowly decaying, a la Frighteners, in ghost form.
Yeah. Let's take that even a step further. What if there is an avatar or like some sort of casket in the form of a human that he puts them in that looks like a passenger in the rickshaw, and you hear is the person in there screaming, and then when you open it up, it's like a decayed body, and it's just like whoever was the last person put in there. That way you get like this kind of the thing we like about Robbie, where he has like this helmet that like belches flames and smoke. You have the same thing, but with the victim, and it's just belching screams and wails and cries.
I can work with that.
That way, there's always a consistent look to the rickshaw, but there's always something different inside.
I can totally work with that.
Let's break down his look. I like the idea of a former samurai with kind of like bubbling, burnt, broken armor, but it's like tempered. There's been so much fire, so much power has just like charred and tempered this armor to the point where you can't like crack through it. You can't cut it. There's nothing you can do to it, but it's just scorched and cut and blackened in some portions and red. It has to have like some sort of accent color that's really out there. I don't know if it's red. Maybe it's like an orangey, just like mimicking the flame kind of deal. And right up onto his neck, that's just like on fire at all times. Like the neckline is just scorched, burning fire.
Now, here's the thing with the samurai, especially with the helmets, they always had a face mask, right? And that face mask by itself can be absolutely terrifying, right? I'd say I'm not too sure how to incorporate the actual helmet itself just yet, but the face mask is what sticks out to me the most. And so, like, just have that face mask, and behind it, just have that wall of flame. And you can see like the hints of the skull behind the mask as well. Maybe you could have the helmet hanging to the side of him, like hanging off his waist.
Yeah, I think the idea of him not even wearing the helmet is pretty cool. Like he just holds it, or this is a brainstorm. Let me just get this out. I just want to throw this out, like kind of a headless horseman type thing, where he holds the helmet and the helmet's on fire, but there's no head where his head used to be. It's just burning this burning samurai helmet in his hand whenever he turns into the Ghost Rider.
I like that thought, but we were talking about the avatar sitting. We were talking about the avatar sitting on the rickshaw. How about that helmet be on top of that avatar, and have that helmet be the penance?
He puts the helmet on the person. He puts the whatever outfit, whatever cloak that the avatar has on the person, and then he speaks whatever incantation he has to say, and he puts the helmet on top of the person, and then the helmet bursts into flames, and then he picks up the rickshaw and starts walking again, and the person's screaming inside, can't move. That's terrifying.
We just came up with another good idea that we shouldn't really tell anybody.
Well, we can't do anything with Ghost Rider. I mean, we could probably just make that. I mean, they can know what it is, and we'll still do it. It's fine. Right. I don't mind. I like this feudal Japan Ghost Rider roaming from town to town, just taking down evil. And I would like it to be kind of what we talked about with the horror characters, where he's not really the focus. He's that specter in the back, where he's like whenever some bad stuff is going down, you see that rickshaw walking and no one knows really what it is, and then he like out of nowhere shows up, kind of like Jason, like just pops up out of nowhere, and he puts the rickshaw down, and he has like this charred black sword that he just uses to fucking skewer people.
And just imagine when he's pulling that sword from its scabbard. Is that the word I'm looking for? Scabbard. Sorry. When he's pulling that sword from that scabbard and the flames just rise up out of it. It's never quick. It's always very slowly, that slow reveal.
Super slow. And you hear the metal scraping against it, just like it's like it's really working to get out, just burning, bubbling. You hear pops and sizzles.
That sounds amazing. I
like that.
Not to toot our own horns, but that sounds amazing.
It sounds pretty damn good. I also like the idea if we had an alternate weapon, it would be like those the glaive, that giant stick with the big what is it, the
like
knife
at
the end of it? Not a scythe, more, let me see, I believe it is a glaive.
Googling it.
Yep, glaive. Okay. It's a glaive. Okay. So yeah, to have like an alternate version of the sword, if it was like a glaive that the flames create the giant spear at the end. Oh, this is even better representation of what I'm thinking. There you go. And he has it on his back, and when he touches it, kind of like when Ghost Rider touches a motorcycle or a car or anything, when he touches the glaive, that's when it erupts in flames. And again, like a movie monster, takes it out super slow. People are trying to attack him, and for some reason, like, he's moving super fast. Like, you just see this staticky vision as if he was like some sort of hologram skipping in and out of reality, but he's just moving really fast, so you can't touch him. And he's just like pulling this glaive with his sword out. It erupts in flames, and then he says something in dope Japanese. Man, I wish I knew Japanese.
But he's saying something in dope Japanese, but he's not actually saying it. People are hearing the voice echoing in their heads.
Exactly. It's like the voice of God if it was made out of hate and fueled by fire.
Sexy, grumbling.
Yeah, and it's just like it's in the back of their head. It's just like thumping, and they're getting like a headache, and they can't understand where the voice is coming from, and it's making the back of their eyes hurt. And when they open their eye, it's just this fire glaive comes down, woof, gets him. And then he's back before they even know it. They're in the avatar, and he's back on his rickshaw, and he's moving on.
Just imagine that, like looking towards Japanese hillside and just seeing a trail of fire slowly moving down.
Wails. You hear the dead crying ever so faintly. It's just to make your hairs on your arm stand up. You're like, is that someone crying? Is that someone screaming? Is that someone pleading for help? Why do they all sound like one person and also like 1,000?
I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this.
Yeah. If you weren't scared of Halloween, we're gonna make you scared. If this isn't the most Halloween thing you ever heard, guys.
Can we also use a rickshaw as a weapon in some way, shape, or form? Like, he can literally just like use it as a sledgehammer when he needs to.
Wing it at somebody?
Yep, just wing it at somebody. just clear.
What if he could just call it, and it like rumbles towards people, and whoever it touches, it sets them on fire if they're bad?
It can do that too.
He looks at it, he thinks it, and it just comes at him.
I'm enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, this is a movie or a thing that has to be made, or I'm going to be upset. All right, that is the Creative Studio. Hope you guys enjoyed our take on what Ghost Rider would be. If you have any suggestions, please send them to us via our contact page or head over to Twitter at SuperBlackSays. We've had a lot of fun. Hope you guys did too. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Goodbye, folks.